Bonjour, pouvez-vous vous présenter?
So my name is Stuart Murray Williams. I live in Peckham, which is a district of South East London. We moved here a few months ago to be involved in a small Baptist church that's almost collapsed during the COVID pandemic, but is in the process of being replanted. So it's not a church planting situation, but it's a replanting situation. My brief history is that I was a church planter in another part of London in the 1980s, taught at a Baptist seminary in London during the 1990s, founded a mission agency called Urban Expression, which is now 27 years old, and have worked as a freelance trainer and consultant, particularly with church planters and pioneers.
Pourquoi implanter de nouvelles assemblées?
For me, the reason is to do with mission. It's to do with the recognition that there are many parts of our Western societies where the church has effectively disappeared. There are gaps opening up, and we need to find ways of filling those gaps. But more than that, I think it's an opportunity to experiment, to explore what does it mean to be church today in a changing culture. So my vision for church planting is not simply about more churches. It's really about an opportunity for missional reflection, for ecclesial reflection, for asking what does it really mean to be followers of Jesus today? How do we engage with the changing context, a very diverse community? What kinds of churches might be good news in those communities? So it's not about more, particularly, it's about what kind, and it's about the opportunity for experimenting in ways that you often can't do within established churches. There are limits to how much you can do without upsetting people, and church planting gives you fresh opportunities to try things out.
Quel genre d'église devrions-nous implanter?
Fundamentally, for me, it would be a church that is concerned about engaging with the wider community rather than simply caring for its own members and its own activities. And the temptation for churches is to become inward looking, to be more concerned about things like correct doctrine, proper practices, pastoral care. None of those are bad things, but mission can then become very much a specialist activity, something that a few people get involved in. And I think one of the advantages of church planting is that those who get involved tend to be missional. They wouldn't be involved otherwise. And so there is, from the very beginning of a new church, an opportunity to establish a kind of missional DNA. What does it mean to be church in this community? How do we reach out to people beyond the church? So missional doesn't seem to me to have any specific content beyond a kind of trajectory. It's basically saying we are here for others. We're not simply here for ourselves. And that will require quite a lot of engagement with the community, quite a lot of listening. One of the things that we have encouraged our Urban Expression church planters to do is to spend at least the first year in a new community simply listening to the community, rather than assuming, oh, we know what church is, and we'll put one here. No, let's listen to the community. Let's get to know people. Let's understand the context. Let's think about the needs of the community, but also the aspirations of the community, the gifts that are in the community. How can we enable people to thrive and to flourish? So church planting isn't simply about activism, although church planters do tend to be activists. It is about missional engagement. It's about listening carefully, both to the neighborhood and to God, and to ask the question, what kind of church would make sense here? And there are a variety of possibilities. You might want a church that is very family oriented. You might want a church that is particularly focused on a subgroup or a subculture. You might want a church that is low on programs and activities and much more interested in eating together and sharing life together. There are many different possibilities, but so much, I think, depends on where the church planter is.
Quel rôle particulier joue l'implanteur?
Not that many church planters operate alone. Some do. There are entrepreneurial church planters who seem to have the ability to go into a community and kickstart something. But the majority will work with a small team, with a small group. And so to ask questions about the role of a church planter depends very much, again, on context and the nature of the team. I think I see the role of the leader of a church planting team as being a kind of generalist, someone who is able to pull together the different gifts within the team. Not necessarily a charismatic evangelist. It may well be that the leader of a team has pastoral gifts, organizational gifts, certainly a missional impetus, but probably most important is the ability to form team, to form community. And then picking up what I've said earlier, the ability to read the community, to read the context. So rather than a list of things that ought to be done, it's much more a question of learning, listening, building relationships, spending time with people. And discernment, really, I think is a very significant spiritual gift of a church planter. What is God saying in this situation? What are people interested in exploring? What would make this community thrive? And I think also, wherever possible, someone with theological understanding. I think surprising numbers of church plants fail because of a lack of theology rather than a lack of activism, just a lack of clarity as to who are we, what are we doing, where are we going.
Comment pouvons-nous prier pour vous?
Well, thank you for asking that. I'm now 67. I've been involved in church planting both as a practitioner and as a trainer consultant for 45 years. I remain committed to it and passionate about it. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm now involved in a replanting situation with a small church a couple of streets away from where we live. So by all means, pray for this little church and its recovery process. I think for myself, it will be wisdom to know how much to do beyond the locality. We've moved here specifically to be involved in the locality, to get back into the grassroots. This is the closest I've been to the grassroots since the 1980s, I guess. And so after many years of a lot of traveling, a lot of teaching, a lot of writing, it's becoming a practitioner again. Not leading, I'm simply here to be supportive of what's going on. So praying, I guess, for wisdom to know what to do beyond the local, what to do in the local, and how to be supportive of others in this situation.